British Columbia ended 2025 with more active listings on the market than at any point since 2014. And while prices continued to drift lower and population growth abruptly stalled, and that combination explains why Vancouver's housing market feels frozen rather than broken. That distinction matters because a frozen market behaves very differently than a broken one. In a broken market, something fundamental has failed, and in a frozen market, activity slows not because people disappear, but because incentives no longer line up. Buyers hesitate, sellers wait, and capital becomes cautious, and that is exactly what the data across BC and especially Vancouver is showing as we move from the end of 2025 here into 2026. And if you start with active listings, the picture becomes very clear. The number of active listings across BC has been rising steadily since the lows of 2022, and by late 2025, seasonally adjusted listings pushed above 40,000, a level we haven't seen in more than a decade. This is not a one-month anomaly, this is not a seasonal spike, this is a slow, persistent rebuild of supply after one of the most extreme inventory shortages the province has ever experienced. For Vancouver, this matters more than for almost any other market in the country. Vancouver is exceptionally sensitive to changes in choice. When inventory is tight, even modest demand can push prices aggressively higher. But when inventory rebuilds, behavior changes quickly, and buyers no longer feel pressure to act while sellers lose urgency leverage and pricing becomes negotiable again, even if headline prices don't collapse. This is why it's important to understand that rising inventory does not automatically mean falling prices in a straight line. What it means first is time. Time on market increases, decision-making slows, and the market stops rewarding impatience. You can see this same story expressed even more clearly when you look at months of inventory. By early 2025, BC entered a range of roughly 6 to 7 months of inventory. Historically, that level corresponds to balanced or mildly buyer-leaning conditions. That is a dramatic shift from the sub 2-month environment that dominated 2021 and early 2022 when scarcity overwhelmed almost every other variable. It's also important to highlight what this is not. This is not a recession-driven inventory spike like we saw in 2020. In 2020, inventory rose because activity paused steadily. Here, inventory is rising because listings are accumulating faster than sales are clearing. Sellers are listing, buyers are showing up selectively, but transactions are taking longer to complete, and that friction is what causes inventory to build. The sales to new listings ratio confirms this dynamic, and by late 2025, the ratio is sitting in the low to mid 40% range. Historically, sustained price appreciation requires a much higher ratio. When that ratio sits below 50%, the market is telling you something very specific. Demand exists, but it is disciplined. Buyers are not chasing, they are comparing, and they are negotiating, and in many cases, they are simply waiting. And this is one of the most misunderstood phases of a housing cycle. People expect either panic or euphoria. What they struggle to interpret is restraint, and restraint is exactly what defines the Vancouver market right now. Prices are responding, but they are responding slowly. The MLS benchmark house price for British Columbia peaked in 2022 and has been grinding lower ever since. By Q4 of 2025, prices are meaningfully off the peak, yet the shape of the decline tells you far more than the magnitude. This is not a waterfall, this is not capitulation, this is a slow repricing through time. Vancouver, as it always does, amplifies both boom and the cool down, and when prices rise, they rise faster, and when conditions soften, activity slows more visibly. But what we're seeing here is not disorder, it's price discovery in an environment where the leverage is constrained and alternatives exist. Year-over-year price growth reinforces this interpretation. By late 2025, year-over-year changes have turned negative again after a brief stabilization earlier in the year. This doesn't mean buyers disappeared, it means the market is digesting a much larger supply base while buyers remain constrained by borrowing capacity, rate sensitivity, and confidence. This is where credit conditions quietly do most of the work. Even as interest rates stabilize, qualification standards remain tight, stress tests still matter, and monthly carrying costs still matter as well, and that keeps a large portion of potential demand on the sidelines, even if prices drift lower. Now layer population growth on top of all this because this is where many popular narratives collapse under scrutiny. BC experienced extraordinary population growth in 2022, 2023, and early into 2024. Those inflows helped absorb both rental and ownership supply during a period of rapidly rising interest rates. They masked underlying affordability constraints, they kept vacancy tight, and they supported transaction volume even as financing costs increased. By late 2025, that dynamic changed. Population growth slowed sharply, even turning negative in the most recent data point. For Vancouver, this matters disproportionately. This city relies on constant inflows to offset high prices, limited land, and constrained affordability. When population growth decelerates, excess supply stops being theoretical. It becomes visible. It shows up in listings, in incentives, and in longer selling timelines. This is not a crisis, but it is a regime change, and that brings us to construction, which is the most misunderstood part of this entire cycle. The dwellings under construction data shows something unprecedented. Rental units under construction in BC surged after 2018 and accelerated again after 2021, reaching levels never seen before. And this is not incremental growth, this is structural shift in what the market is building. Condo construction also rose over this period, but the composition changed. Rental construction became a much larger share of total activity, while single-family construction remained historically subdued. The system did not respond to affordability pressures by building more ownership housing, it responded by building rental housing. And that decision was not ideological. Developers did not suddenly change their beliefs, they responded to risk. Condo resales became harder to secure, end-user affordability weakened, and investors pulled back, and lenders demanded more certainty. Rental projects offered that certainty, long-term cash flow, financing stability, and less exposure to short-term price volatility in an environment where resale was reliable and rental became the path of least resistance for capital. The companion chart showing homeowner dwellings under construction, excluding rentals, reinforces that point. Ownership-oriented supply did grow, but it did not accelerate at the same pace. The system is not building its way out of this through ownership demand. It is clearing demand through rentership. This is the quiet shift happening beneath the surface in Vancouver. The housing system is reorganizing around where capital can operate with the least risk. Ownership has become higher leverage, more rate sensitive, and slower to clear, and renting has become the pressure valve that absorbs population, flexibility needs, and financial uncertainty. For buyers, this fundamentally changes this decision framework. When inventory is elevated, prices are drifting lower, and rental supply is expanding, and urgency evaporates. Buying becomes a strategic choice rather than a forced decision. And that doesn't mean buying is wrong, it means discipline is rewarded again. For sellers, the implications are uncomfortable but necessary to understand. You are no longer selling into scarcity, you're selling into comparison, and every additional listing weakens pricing power unless your property is clearly superior or correctly priced. Time becomes a real cost, and patience is no longer optional. For owners under pressure, risk management becomes a priority. In a slow clearing market, forced decisions are punished, not because prices collapse overnight, but because liquidity disappears. Protecting runway through cash flow management, refinancing when appropriate, and realistic expectations matters far more than hoping for a rapid rebound. And for renters, this is the most important reframing of all. Renting longer in Vancouver is not a temporary failure or an anomaly. It is the system responding to constrained ownership throughout rising supply and shifting capital priorities. Rental construction surged not because people stopped wanting to own, but because ownership could no longer scale fast enough to absorb demand at acceptable risk. The mistake many people make is turning this into a moral argument. It isn't one. This is a mechanical process. Listings rose, sales slowed, population growth cooled, and construction pivoted. Prices adjusted, therefore, and the system is not collapsing, it is normalizing after an extreme period of distortion. What matters going forward is not whether prices bounce next quarter. What matters is whether ownership capacity expands again through easier credit, higher incomes, or renewed population growth. Until that happens, the market will continue to clear through rental supply rather than ownership demand. And Vancouver isn't becoming a renter city because people gave up on ownership. It's becoming one because the system no longer allows ownership to absorb growth the way it once did. In 2025, the data makes that impossible to ignore. So again, thank you for your time and support. If you're needing help with your buying or selling journeys, make sure you book in that discovery call in the QR code. The link is in the description, and I'll see you on the next one.